Maverick. It's a gambit. If you play against combo, you're dead.
Yep.
You just pretty much can't win. Unless your lone Gaddock Teague manages to stick. But if you play against something like Rug Delver, great matchup. Elves is probably a good matchup as well. They have Stoneforge for Umezawa's Jite, as well as the 3 Punishing Fire in the sideboard.
Yeah, absolutely. The punishing part of Punishing Maverick, not main decked here, so game 1 is going to be a little bit of an uphill battle. Raeef has access to Swords to Plowshares out of the main deck, as well as 1 Garruk or Relentless, which is not exactly an ideal solution to when you're fighting a million little green men.
The Elvish Horde.
That's right.
So, yeah, expect Raeef, if he knows what he's playing against, to mulligan aggressively to Jite, because that's the one card that matters. That, and of course, Stoneforge Mystic.
Absolutely. Jackie Lee there on the left playing Elves. As you see, we had her on camera earlier. We just came back from a replay of hers, actually. And she is playing a very traditional looking Elves list with 3 natural orders, the full gamut of Deathrite Shamans, Llanowar Elves, Fyndhorn Elves, Birchlore Rangers, Heritage Druids to be able to add mana.
Right.
And also being able to go turn 1 Green Sun Zenith should she need to.
So Jackie Lee, forced into Green Sun, puts her up 2 mana to Raeef's 0 on turn 1.
Raeef, though, is a deck that is very good with a mana advantage, as he proves here, having a little bit of what Jackie's having, going in for a Dryad Arbor of his own.
And now, if you're Jackie, who hasn't played a heck of a lot of Legacy, does she think she's playing against the Mirror right now?
I think that you have to assume so.
Basic Forest?
Yeah, basic Forest into Dryad Arbor. I would assume that I'm playing against the Mirror.
Right. Jackie will expect to see Jackie to try and combo as fast as possible against what she assumes is another elf deck.
Now she does have double Gaia's Cradle in hand, so she can do a mini glimpse this turn, draw about 4 cards.
Right.
Assuming the top of her library is cooperative, to be able to try and set up a much bigger one next turn.
Right, you know, that's something that Gerard and I were talking about earlier, when to go for the value glimpse versus when to hold the glimpse for a gigantic combo turn. I'm of the opinion that the value glimpse is really good.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think Jackie Lee agrees.
Yeah, she's going to be able to drop 3 creatures from her current hand and possibly add more.
Right, Gaia's Cradle, of course, adding 2, 1 for Dryad Arbor, 1 for Deathrite Shaman.
There's the Gaia's Cradle.
1, 2. Here comes another, it looks like another Deathrite.
Yep, there's another Deathrite in hand. She has drawn a lot of lands off this glimpse so far. She does have 1 green mana floating, though, so another Deathrite Shaman will be able to enter the battlefield. And that value glimpse, it was not a lot of value.
Look at that. Her hand is 2 fetch lands, 2 Gaia's Cradles. Really, really bad for the elf deck.
Yep. Glimpse of Nature did draw 3 cards there, but unfortunately those 3 cards were all lands, so not the most ideal situation of all time. We did use Wirewood Symbiote to be able to untap a forest, return a Deathrite Shaman, and draw an additional card. And that's going to be another land.
Wow.
Jeez, that's rough.
So she has all the mana in the world. If you include those 2 Deathrite Shamans, she could produce, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 mana next turn if she so wished, but nothing to do with it. She would love to draw a Regal Force, a Green Sun Zenith. Virtually any non-land in her deck is okay.
Yep.
Quirion Ranger, Elvish Visionary, they're all good.
So Green Sun Zenith for 1. This is likely going to get another mana accelerant. Noble Hierarch being the mana accelerator of choice here.
That's
We
right.
used Grove of the Burn Willows to cast that spell, by the way. Grove of the Burn Willows there on your left. Certainly a modern all-star. Started making its way into Legacy about halfway through last year. And certainly in concert with Punishing Fire is a very powerful combination of cards. Especially when a metagame goes down to a lot of creature decks like we see here.
Right. For a while there, people are trying to stick Grove of the Burn Willows, Punishing Fire into any shell they possibly could. People recovered from their momentary madness, though. Right now, it's only played really in Loam decks and the odd Punishing Maverick like we see here.
And I have bad news for Jackie Lee fans. We drew the 4th Gaia's Cradle.
Wow.
That is a lot of Gaia's Cradles.
Where is a Faithless Looting when you need it?
Yeah, seriously. or a Mana Bond.
Yeah, or anything.
Mana Bond isn't going to be very good with 4 Gaze Cradles. But,
and the Legend Rule X4.
Yeah, and anything. Any spell would have been preferable to the 4th Gaze Cradle there, of course. Raeef isn't putting a ton of pressure on Jackie just yet, though.
Yeah, joke's on Raeef. If he ever wastelands that Gaia's Cradle, it's going to be pretty funny.
Yeah, not going to end well for Raeef if he decides that Knight of the Reliquary taking out the Gaia's Cradle is the option that we're going for.
Knight turn after turn. She's got to be out of Cradles eventually.
And so Jackie Lee pondering what she's going to do here, deciding how to best use these Deathrite Shamans, I imagine. She's going to swing in with the 1/1 beats is how we're going to proceed. So we've got Dryad Arbor, a pair of Deathrite Shamans, and the Wirewood Symbiote to Raeef's 0/1 and 1/1 blocking force.
Wow, if I was Raeef, I would snap this off. Yeah, and he does.
Absolutely.
Take out that Symbiote. What an important combo piece. Jackie Lee's going to be kicking herself for this trade if she ever draws an Elvish Visionary.
Yeah, I think that even attacking with just the other 3 creatures was perfectly reasonable. That Wirewood Symbiote's too important of a card to be able to just throw away willy-nilly trade with a Dryad Arbor like that.
Right, one of the most valuable cards in the deck. That and Glimpse of Nature are the 2 most important. So she has no other option but to pass it back to Raeef here. No play except for a fetch land.
Raeef's deck is very similar to the old style of Maverick decks because it has oh no, it does not have the Stoneforge Mystic package.
No, I actually said that prior to the match. I said Stoneforge will be one of the most important, but
yeah.
0 Stoneforge.
So this is the second generation, the most common version of Maverick, although it is adding the Punishing Fire element to it. So he's got no great way to search out the Jita. He just has to hope to find it off of either Sylvan Library or just drawing it.
Yeah, and there's the Sylvan.
There's the Sylvan Library there at the top of the screen. Very complicated Magic card that's going to be able to dig him into his answer card, since a lot of his cards are not very good in this matchup. Fortunately for him, everything in Jackie Lee's hand isn't very good in this matchup. So there's Sylvan Library there on the left, the Commander's Arsenal version. Very complicated card that works when you think about it, but not really in practice, and so they've had to reword it many, many times, including a brief period where it was an activated ability.
Don't even ask.
5th edition or 4th edition.
Don't even ask about Sylvan and Bonfire of the Damned.
Oh, jeez.
That's ugly right there.
And so, did we find yet another land?
It sure looks like it. I'm pretty sure Jackie Lee is soon going to be discarding Gaia's Cradles at the rate this is going.
Yeah.
So she's down to 1 Deathrite Shaman and 1 Dryad Arbor and a handful of land. Raeef, though, not doing all that much. He's not putting any pressure on Jackie. She has time to draw out of this.
Yeah, he does not have access to white mana other than that Noble Hierarch, which he was sort of hoping would untap yet again. And he has a ton of white cards in his hand, so he's playing it very safe here, I believe. And Gadok T is going to be the option, I think.
That's actually a really good card against Jackie. You know, at first you'd think, okay, a guy that shuts off large spells is not good against an all-creature elf deck, but Glimpse of Nature and Natural Order are huge cards in the matchup.
Turns out he decides to pass instead, leaving up, I think he has another Swords to Plowshares in here.
Okay.
So he will be able to shut down a Regal Force or Craterhoof Behemoth.
Sure. If I were him, I would get the Gadok T out right away, because any potential Green Sun that Jackie draws is the best card in her deck.
Yeah, Raeef has a Green Sun of his own in his hand, so he was very wary of doing that to himself, but I think that it's much more important to shut down Natural Order or Green Sun Zenith than shutting off one of your own Green Sun Zeniths. And there's a Green Sun Zenith for Jackie Lee.
Yep, so hopefully she can capitalize on this maybe potential slight misplay by Raeef. He's playing the long game. He's trying to draw into cards with Sylvan Library, but little does he know that Jackie has no gas, and he's just doing her a favor.
Yep. So she can play another land and then have 8 mana to be able to Green Sun for 7, going to go get Regal Force.
Right.
In response to the trigger, Raeef will Swords to Plowshares, assuming he has a copy in his hand, at which point Jackie will only draw 2.
Only 2. Usually enough to get the elf deck going. Just a couple of cards is all it needs. An Elvish Visionary, a Wirewood Symbiote, another Green Sun. With every fetch she pops, the Green Suns become more and more powerful.
So there go the fetch lands to the graveyard, searching out some more forests. for 5, 6, 7, 8 mana is available to her this turn.
If you're just joining us, Ruben Bressler, Zach Hall, we're coming to you live from Star City Open Series here in Worcester, Massachusetts. We're around 8 of 9. These two players are playing for the right to draw into the top 8 here.
Absolutely, and as we see, Jackie Lee is going to cast that Green Sun Zenith from her hand.
And here it comes.
That's going to shuffle back into her library, as all of the Zeniths do. And she is going to find Regal Force. Regal Force is a card from Eventide that really pushed the Elf combo deck over the top. Previous to there being Regal Force, it was more of a beatdown deck.
Right.
It wasn't even a combo deck. Even Heritage Druid and Nettle Sentinel, you could get the engine going, but there was nothing to go into. And Regal Force really allowed Elves to go over the top and fully become a combo deck.
Yeah, just a great card. It was almost like they printed it with the Elf deck in mind. Oh wow, 1, 2, 3, Green Sun land and Green Sun.
Those are fine. Those are still okay, because Green Sun Zenith is going to be able to go X equals 8 next turn.
Right.
And that's going to be able to go get Crater Hoof Behemoth, which is probably going to be enough.
Yeah, Army of 5/5's pretty good against a Punishing Maverick deck that's trying to interact with 2/2s, 2/1s. Even Knight of the Reliquary would only be a 2/2 right now. So
unfortunately for Raeef, the top of his library is Mother of Runes, Swords to Plowshares, and Umezawa's Jite, none of which are particularly good right now, especially considering he has no white mana. He is going to fall to 12.
Right, he pays 8 life? No, sorry, he pays 4 life there, draws the extra card. He really wants to clear out the top of his library.
And he really needs to play this Gadok Teeg, or else he's not going to be able to survive the next turn, almost certainly.
Right, it looks like he's flipping between Thalia and Swords to Plowshares. He probably figures that the Gadok Teeg is not very good against the Elf deck, but little does he know that Jackie Lee's draw was really Green Sun heavy.
Now, the Swords to Plowshares is actually a fine option here. That's going to prevent Jackie from being able to kill Raeef outright, because the Crater Hoof Behemoth would be the only untapped creature after casting that Green Sun Zenith. So there might have to be another option for Jackie, either waiting another turn to get more lands into play to be able to attack with the other creatures, which is certainly just a fine option at this point with very little pressure still being put on you, especially now that we have, what is that? That is Quirion Ranger to be able to protect us from Jite, basically.
Right, and you know, I think what Jackie might do here, she might pop her Green Suns not for Crater Hoof, but for something like Wirewood Symbiote, Elvish Visionary, try and get her engine going.
Yes. And I think that's what I would probably do here, is try and get the engine going. You don't really need to, even if it's just one of the Green Sun Zeniths to go get Elvish Visionary, leave the other one to try and go get Crater Hoof. I think that's a perfectly reasonable option.
Yeah, that's good too, but whatever she does, she has to have a way to remove her creature from combat so the Jite does not get counters. That's the key.
So we have 6 mana, 7, and 8. Slowly. I think that this, because she can use the Quirion Ranger trigger to untap one of the forests, the forest being the Dryad Arbor, she can still Green Sun for 8, go get the Crater Hoof, and attack for enough damage to actually just kill Raeef this turn.
Okay, we'll see if that's the line she's going to take. It certainly looks like it. Bounce the forest, untap the Death Right.
Untap it. I see.
For a little extra mana.
There you go.
And here we go. Green Sun. X is a virtual million.
Yep. X is for any creature that she so chooses. It's almost certainly going to be the Hoof. Hoof, there it is. Trigger is going to be +4/+4 to all of Jackie's creatures. So that's a 4/5 trampling Deathrite Shaman and a 9/9 trampling Crater Hoof Behemoth.
And Hoof goes the dynamite.
Yep. And that's going to be the end of this game, almost certainly, unless Raeef manages to have something like a, well, I don't know, Dismember in response to the trigger, which isn't in his deck, unfortunately for Raeef, who got stuck on mana, whereas Jackie got flooded, and fortunately her deck rewarded her with Green Sun Zeniths, and Raeef's deck did not reward him with Plains.
Yeah, that's one really cool thing about Jackie Lee's deck. She plays so few lands. How many is this? 16? Yeah, she plays 19 land in her deck. She fetched out 5 of them. So really, with all the Gaia's Cradles, all the fetch lands, she had about 4 lands left in her deck, maybe 5. So she was drawing all gas from that point on.
Yep, and Green Sun Zenith, certainly the best card that she could have drawn at that point, especially 2 of them, to be able to get an extra creature, get an extra body on the battlefield. Moving to the sideboards, Raeef's sideboard is a veritable cornucopia of options. He has a lot of singletons to be able to try and go get. That's mostly as a result of having both Green Sun Zenith and Sylvan Library in your deck. Not to mention Garruk Relentless, I guess, can go search out creatures as well. And Knight of the Reliquary can go get out lands.
Right.
So some of the options that I would almost certainly guarantee Raeef would bring in are Punishing Fire, the name of the album, being brought in to be able to deal with all of the 1/1s and X2s on Jackie's side of the board. I would also not be surprised to see Aethersworn Canonist be brought in here.
Yeah, that's really good against the elf deck.
Absolutely, be able to shut off most of that combo. And I think that's about it, actually, out of Raeef's deck. Things like Oblivion Ring can be useful. I guess Wiltleaf Leash can be brought in for racing situations, but there's not really much else in Raeef's sideboard. He could bring in the Crop Rotation as another copy of Maze of Ith or another copy of Grove of the Burn Willows, but there's not a ton that Raeef wants to bring in for this matchup.
Yeah, you know, on the flip side, Jackie has almost nothing as well. She'll probably bring in the Progenitus, really powerful against Raeef. Just about nothing in his deck can interact with it. She might bring in the Sylvan Library for a little extra card selection, but mainly it's going to be 2 Abrupt Decay. She's going to bring those in for any potential equipment that he has. She has to know that GTA is a crucial part of these Maverick decks. She might not know that he has 0 Stoneforge, but either way, she'll be bringing them in.
Yeah, even if you have no Stoneforge Mystics, you're still running multiple GTAs in the Maverick deck, and just like before Stoneforge Mystic was printed, you just got to draw your GTA, which will happen a lot of the time,
yeah,
especially when you're running multiples. And Raeef's deck is very able to use the GTA very efficiently with multiple flyers and protection creatures, things like Sylvan Safekeeper, and Sigarda, Host of Herons, making an appearance in Raeef's deck. Not in its best in this matchup, but that is a great one, especially against something like Rug Delver. Able to land that, and that's just almost game over at that point.
On the spot, 5/4 hexproof. The only other card Jackie Lee could bring in Kazali Pride Mage as another answer to the GTA. I'm sorry, 5/5 hexproof. 5/5. So she'll bring in the triad of GTA answers, the Decay, and the Pride Mage. Maybe a Library, maybe a Progenitus. Those are fairly marginal.
I think that the extra Natural Order and the Progenitus are certainly going to come in. Maverick has a very difficult time dealing with that. Mostly, you bring in that plan against anything that doesn't kill you immediately,
right,
and also doesn't have counterspells. And this deck fits both of those categories, so Progenitus on turn 3 is probably going to be good enough.
Go figure that green-white aggro can't beat a 10/10 protection from everything.
Shocking.
Weird. Yeah.
Well, it can deal with most everything out of Caracas, thanks to Knight of the Reliquary. Even Show and Tell opponents. If you cast Show and Tell and you put in Emrakul, I put in Knight of the Reliquary, I get to untap, go get my Caracas, and just bounce your Emrakul.
That's right.
Unfortunately, Progenitus has protection from, what's the word?
Everything.
So,
all of it.
And that would include Caracas.
Yeah. Caracas does fall into that umbra of everything.
It does, yes.
How about that? So it looks like Jackie Lee keeps her 7, Raeef Istfan going to 6 cards. He's looking for, what do you think, Umezawa's GTA? Is he aggressively mulliganing for that?
No, I don't think that you have to aggressively mulligan for GTA. I think that tops on his list is probably Punishing Fire. I think that's step 1.
Okay.
If he has a GTA, he's certainly not going to throw it away. But I think that I would much rather have it be impacting the board on turn 2 than impacting the board on turn 3 or 4.
Sure, that makes sense. So it looks like Raeef, 6-card hand. He doesn't look happy, does he?
No, I think you have a good read there, that he's not happy with his 6. Jackie waiting patiently to see what Raeef ends up doing here. He says, no. Yes, I will keep it, and it's going to start out with a Windswept Heath. Jackie Lee has a Glimpse of Nature and a Wirewood Symbiote, as well as a Deathrite Shaman and a Fetch Land. So she's going to be able to. She's cooking with gas already, and we have Natural Order.
Yeah, this is a stocked hand right here. She has one of just about every elf that she would want, and her best land, Gaia's Cradle. Expect her to try and go off here. Raeef's best chance, honestly, is, say, a Wasteland if she's foolish enough to get a duel instead of her basic Forest. But
Which
no.
she is not.
Yep. Jackie Lee has never played this deck before, has played about 5 rounds of Legacy before this tournament in her entire life, and here she is up 1-0, poised to draw into top 8, poised to win this match and draw into top 8.
Yep. Very talented magician, though. She has, she's a perennial 11th place finisher on the Grand Prix circuit. I think she had 3 11th place finishes last year at Grand Prix.
Yeah, she was channeling her own Brandon Shield right there, who repeated that feat 08, 07 or so.
So Green Sun Zenith is going to go search out Dryad Arbor on turn 1 instead of the Deathrite Shaman coming into play. Raeef is going to search out Dryad Arbor of his own as his land for the turn.
Kind of surprising. Dryad Arbor not really at its best in this matchup. Maybe he's trying to connect with a Jite.
Yeah, I think that's probably the plan here, is to just get a creature onto the battlefield. And so even with the slow start, he's going to be able to try and do that. There is the Caracas we talked about earlier. And
Qasali Pride Mage, yeah. So Raeef has access to white mana this game. That's a pretty big change from the last one where he only had red-green.
Yep, and Qasali Pride Mage not at its best in this matchup either, although he might be anticipating other Jites across the board. Jackie's deck, I don't believe, has Jites. They are in about, I'd say, about 25% of the Elves list that I've seen, mostly to kill opposing Jites in Stoneforge decks, but also to be able to deal with mirror matches, Rug Delver, and the like. It's
also just a great card to have one of in your deck, because sometimes you draw it, and it just randomly wins the game. It's goblins, merfolk, what have you, just about anything. Lingering Souls.
Yep, so turn 2, we played Glimpse of Nature. Glimpse of Nature then drew a card off of Wirewood Symbiote, then Nettle Sentinel, and looks like Heritage Druid.
Wow.
We're not going to have the opportunity to play a third elf, I don't believe. Unless I did my math wrong.
No, I don't think she has any more mana floating, but she sets up for an amazing turn 3 right here. She has Nettle Sentinel Heritage Druid, which is half of the combo. Oh, what is this?
Oh, she's returning the Heritage Druid to untap the Dryad Arbor.
Oh, very nice.
To add more mana to her mana pool. Recast the Heritage Druid or the Deathrite Shaman. I would probably throw down the Deathrite Shaman here. Although Heritage Druid is certainly an option.
Yeah, both creatures will add 1 mana on the next turn.
Heritage Druid effectively has haste, though.
Yeah, true.
And so getting the Deathrite into play, I think, is probably more profitable. Although getting the Heritage Druid into play allows her to play a second one next turn should something happen to this one. She's hoping that Raeef actually is kind of hoping that Swords to Plowshares hits this Heritage Druid so that she can be able to have a backup plan should the Natural Order plan not pan out.
Right, now she has the Symbiote in play, which is really the key of the elf deck, because that's going to let her protect all her elves from any potential removal spells. It's also going to let her loop Elvish Visionaries, loop things to untap Nettle Sentinel, to virtually untap themselves to net more mana with Heritage Druid. So
Raeef does not have the Gadok Teague. It looks like he has Sylvan Library. That's not going to be good enough to shut down the pair of Natural Orders in Jackie Lee's hand. She's actually going to be able to cast both Natural Orders if she wants.
Wow.
And I think that actually if she brought in the Progenitus, that would be enough to kill Raeef this turn.
Well, we'll see what she goes for here. She has a boatload of mana available to her, and Craterhoof can really win out of nowhere. Raeef's at 19 life, but is not even close to safe.
Yeah, I think that even just Craterhoof by itself is probably going to be good enough this game because she has so many elves in her hand to be able to reuse the Heritage Druid and Nettle Sentinel combo.
Right. So here we go, 1 mana, Heritage Druid.
And then we're going to play another creature that normally wouldn't be able to tap the turn that it comes into play in Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, Jackie Lee does not play by the rules, though. She has Heritage Druid, which gives every elf haste, effectively.
Yep, you can tap 3 of your elves to add a pseudo dark ritual, a green ritual,
Yeah.
or a life ritual. How about life ritual?
Yeah, you know what?
To your mana
you
pool.
should pitch Mark Rosewater on this. Say, Mark, we need to print
We
life
need to
ritual.
print life ritual.
One green
Because
for
dark
3 green.
ritual is such a reasonable Magic card.
Oh yeah.
We
Yeah,
need another one.
It wasn't too good.
Agreed. And so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana off of that Gaia's Cradle. And this is going to tap to cast Natural Order, sacking one of these Deathrite Shamans.
Yep. Trade a Summoning Sick Deathrite Shaman for a Progenitus.
Either a Progenitus or a Craterhoof Behemoth. Oh, either of which are probably going to be good enough here. I imagine Craterhoof Behemoth is going to pump the team by 7. So she's going to have 2 8/8s plus the Craterhoof Behemoth, which is going to be a 12/12, and that's just going to be good enough. Fortunately for her, Raeef didn't really do anything this game. Otherwise, the Progenitus plan might have actually taken an extra turn longer, basically.
Right.
But with the trigger here, Jackie's creatures are going to get +7/+7.
Yeah, that's okay.
3 of them can attack.
Conveniently, 3 times 7. That's Raef's that's his life total. He's going to have to chump block with Dryad Arbor if he just wants to stay alive.
Well, it's going to give +7/+7 to all 3. And the additional power is going to be enough to take him down. Oh, I'm sorry, there's 3 unsummoning sick creatures plus the haste creature. Well over 30 damage. Raeef Istfan is going to fall to Jackie Lee. Jackie Lee goes up to 8-1. Raeef Istfan falls to 7-2. Likely out of contention as Joel Larson watches on from behind the feature match area. Also Matt Costa back there. But Jackie Lee is going to be put her